Do you ever feel like everyone is having more sex than you?
I think people are liars. Shocking.
Ooh.
Phoebe thinks someone's lying. Hi, I'm Phoebe.
Hi, I'm Jacque.
And welcome to Do You Ever Feel Like?
Where we ask the questions that everyone's thinking and no one's answering.
How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing? I've seen so much of you this week. It's like, what do we have to talk about? That's how I
This
feel.
week? Really? I mean,
yeah.
There's been other weeks. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
We literally spent like 12 hours what it felt like together on Tuesday. Like, what are you talking about? That was 2 days ago.
I'm like, really? Yeah. I know. I don't know. I don't know. I've been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. Late stage capitalism.
Right.
End of a pandemic trauma. Like that's how I've been. Been. I've like whenever I've been having a problem lately, I've been like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Is this like actually a thing that is like within my agency and like control? Or is this like, am I feeling the effects? Not to say that doesn't make it like any more or less real, but just changes like, I don't know, my control over a situation, which is my favorite thing to do, obviously.
Control everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've been. I listen to my Channy app. I do my burpees. No, I don't. But I do
this
a modified
is a colloquial
burpee.
thing that we
I do a modified burpee specifically. And, I just keep going in whatever little way. I took a friend to an appointment today. Like I was like helping with some errands and stuff. And nice. I was like, this is the stuff that like makes me feel good.
Oh my God. Channy? No, like.
Well.
Like,
I was
what
like, this
the
is
fuck?
the stuff. I sent it to you?
Did
I send that to you? That's the
Yes.
stuff that makes me feel good. And then, I like looked at my Channy app today and it was like, RSVP early, like show up to your, like help out. And I think that is like when I feel at a real loss of like what is going on with planet Earth. Like instead of, I don't know, sticking my head in a hole like an ostrich, I'm like, okay, what can I do? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
That's nice.
I'm fine.
Yeah, listeners, I'm like, I think I'm getting sick. So I don't know if you have any. Like,
you don't sound like it.
I know.
I should send you this week my friend, Dr. Emily Bennett. Great Instagram follow. But her email this week, her newsletter this week had like a cold 101, like how to take care of yourself with a cold kind of thing. I will forward it to you.
Yes, please.
She's great. I fucking love her.
I think it's like, whatever. We don't have to go into this. It's all the things. So I think I'm just feeling like my body's feeling a little overwhelmed. Yeah. So I'm fine, I guess, too. I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine. Channy is like, I know. I know.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Because it's every fucking episode.
I know. I was thinking today as I was listening to like the weekly. I hadn't listened to the week ahead yet, and I was thinking, I was like, the amount of times like I just whisper like, "Bitch," like under my breath, but like the I'm like, oh, like happy, like, oh, bitch, yes, and then I'm like, bitch, no, like,
no.
The intonation changes.
No.
And I was just thinking, I was like, what must it be like? And it's like, she's very explicitly like, I'm the messenger kind of thing. And I'm like, what must that role be like as just like, hi, I'm here to translate this for us all kind of thing. I find very funny. And like, how many times do I just whisper bitch at my phone while I'm sitting in the bath?
I hate you. Yeah, no. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, like there's this thing happening with me right now where it's like I have so much overzealous like energy to do things and
Mm.
to
Mhm.
make myself
Mhm.
busy,
Mhm.
even though all of the things are saying don't do that, which is very hard.
Yeah, and I think it's also like I just try and take those moments when they come too,
Yeah.
because I know there are times where I'm just like absolute like I've been working really long days the last couple
Mhm.
like of days, like the last week or something,
Mhm.
and I know I'll probably be tired in a couple of days, but I also like I genuinely enjoy it. Like I
Yeah.
actually do, and I'm
Yeah.
probably addicted to my phone, but I'm just like kind of okay with it. Like I'm
I love
just
that.
kind of okay
I
with
love it.
it.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's been like an interesting thing of like, no, do I like want to like get on this and like take advantage of this like feeling, or am I hiding in this
Mm.
stuff in
Mhm.
another way, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's like always like parsing it out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like even if I am hiding, cool. Like
Mhm.
is because the alternative looking in the mirror, and I just like don't have the skills for that right now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I invite us to do something at the top of an episode in a surprise because you surprised me last week. So
Oh,
I'm surprising you this week,
I love it.
which is that we're going to do
That's my love language.
surprises
Just like
or
being taken
gifts.
care of like that.
Oh, okay. Um, this week we're gonna chat pop culture and news, whatever we're calling this, because whatever. We have three items that I have on deck to
Oh my
discuss of
god, I
the
can't
week.
believe you're bringing me the pop culture
I am.
items.
I'm bringing you the pop culture items. Well, technically, off the mic, you
Mhm.
brought me the pop culture items, but now I am
Now you're in it.
talking to you about
Oh,
them.
I love it. Okay.
Okay, so the first one is Leslie Jordan.
Oh,
I know.
that that's like I can't even like I didn't know how much I loved somebody.
I
I didn't know how
know.
much I really really loved this person
I
until
know.
they were gone. It's so sad.
Yeah.
I think nothing makes you feel more like uh, I don't know, like 3D human than just random life shit. Just like
Yeah.
lightning strikes you down.
Yeah.
That is so sad to me.
Hmm. Leslie, did you listen to Leslie's podcast?
I didn't know Leslie had a podcast.
I'm
No,
pretty
I was
sure.
just a TikTok. I was an avid TikTok and social. I mean, I loved I loved Leslie. I loved Will and Grace. Um,
Obviously.
which is
Yeah.
like such a weird after school watch for a child, but I watched Will and Grace like
It's so good.
like just
Yeah.
I don't know if this generation, and this is like a very I know many people say this, I don't know if this generation truly understands like the unhinged nature of like 3 p.m.
Mm.
television as like a latchkey millennial. Like I feel like I'm like the
Latchkey
last
millennial.
I am like the last like of my generation. Like I just don't know if that like happened the same way, you
Mm.
know? Watching
Mm.
Peachtree TV at 3
Yeah.
p.m.
Yes, Leslie Jordan did have a podcast.
Oh my
And
god.
also
Oh.
Leslie Jordan is a great podcast host or podcast guest.
Okay, well I'm going to
Um,
go dive into those archives.
I don't know how much you know about Leslie Jordan, but what a life
I know
that
they're
person
from
lived.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is one of my favorite
Yes.
like cities. I've never been
Yeah.
there. I just like the name. That's all.
Um, from the South, had quite a life,
Mm-hmm.
battled all kinds of stuff. It
Oh,
just like yeah, go listen to podcasts of Leslie's life, or like,
oh,
Leslie
okay.
talking about their life, because it was, that's the thing I think too. It's like, I don't know, when these like larger, what seemingly larger than life people,
Yeah.
or like, I felt this way when Stephen Sondheim died.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
This sense of like, wow,
Yeah.
life will get you, even you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
like, which is like, there's so much that goes into that, and it's like scary and putting people on a pedestal and blah 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 blah. But like, I
Yeah.
just it's
But
like
we've been doing that
it's
for as long as
forever,
humans have. Yeah.
right? But it's a very human thing of like, oh no.
I guess that's maybe
Yeah.
it's almost like being a human is so embarrassing in kind of a
Yeah.
way. There's this quote. I can't think. Wow, this is my brain. It's who is it? It's like death is embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it's something. It's like the most human, boring, like basic. It's like we all get born and we all die, and it's
Yeah.
always like not
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Ugh, so sad. So
It's
fucking sad.
Really sad. What an example of a person too is what I've been thinking
Oh my
about as
God.
well.
Yes. Ooh, that's
Just
a good.
like
Yeah.
was like doing the like humanness right. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
was just like not even right, but like the way that I would like to live,
yeah.
like be a human.
I'm really interested right now in like, I had this like thought come across my brain the other day of, I don't want to go viral. And that is not like an interesting story to me as like somebody who like writes or interviews people. And the virality isn't interesting to me. The like staying power or not even consistency, like, you know, sticking to something is what's interesting to me. And like, I was watching like a very recent, it was like an Instagram or a TikTok or something, like one of his last TikToks were like, at the age of 67, I just bought my first condo. Like a career that was long and again, consistency is not the right word, but just showing up to something even when it isn't the like, you know, 6-figure paycheck in one go. Like that to me is so that's the majority of people's experience is in any industry. Maybe not the majority, but virality is the lottery.
Oh, for sure.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Just a good life.
I know. So sad.
Blessings
so sad
to Leslie. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, number 2, the Adele.
Oh, the music video. Isn't that delicious and tasty? I know. I cried watching that.
I cried.
It's the I Drink Wine music video.
Yes.
Oh,
I lost my actual shit.
I know.
And I hate you for it.
I know.
And it just left me like speechless. I mean, I am speechless. I have so much to say and nothing to say. You know, like
I know
the symbolism.
I know
the like.
I know. I know that shot at the very end there has got to be, what's that painting? The Ophelia painting, right? Like there's so many references to so much other artwork in that. And that to me, like that is always so delicious and tasty when again, like, you know, referencing artists before us is like the most generous thing I think any of us can ever do.
Yes. I just like the choice of like, I'm going to sit in an inner tube in couture and I'm going to sing to a camera and that's above me. Like taking this whole aerial shot of me with like the decadence of it.
I know.
While she is singing. And I hope I can get over myself.
I know.
Like,
that's when I lost it.
That I just like, I was like, I can't, like, queen.
I know.
like
I know.
It's so good.
I know. Good. I know. It's in that shot where they pull out and it's like the crew like helping her out and like, you know, the set that they're on, the soundstage that they're on, and like the projection, like, you know, his Mac laptop like on projecting up onto the screen. It's like that, like I guess it's like what always takes my breath away. It's like the 3D humanness of creating something together with other people and like the dancers and the choreography around that, and you know, like the like, I don't know, divers, the people in wetsuits like coming to get Adele in her like That is
The
just so
synchronized
fucking
dancing.
gorgeous to me. Oh, I know. I wanted to be a synchronized swimmer so
Synchronized
bad when I
swimming.
was a kid. So bad.
Love it.
My sister and I recreated the Blades of Glory. She's going to be furious at me for saying this on a podcast. My sister and I recreated the Blades of Glory Flash Gordon dance. Is it Flash Gordon? Flash of the Universe? That Queen song? In our above ground swimming pool as kids.
Oh, wow.
In our rental unit, our rental above ground swimming pool. So everyone else from our apartment complex is like looking down at these two fucking weirdos. And we're like, Mom, Dad, come out, watch us. I wanted to be a synchronized swimmer so bad. Anyway.
Oh my God, that's so
I know.
funny.
Art, people making
man.
things. Fucking Adele. Dude, I like with Adele.
Do you remember when, or like a few months ago, when Adele was like, I'm not doing my Las Vegas residency anymore?
Yeah.
And there was all these like, oh, there has to be water on stage. I was like, oh, I connected that. I was like, was the water for I Drink Wine? Interesting. Maybe not. I don't know.
I didn't put that together. You smarty girl.
I don't know. I'm always trying to figure out what's happening behind the scenes, you know? Investigative.
Yeah.
Okay,
who's
so that
the
was
PA here? Like, can we chat?
I know. That's the second thing, because I was like, we have to talk about these two things. And then the third thing is Brittany Griner.
Oh, I don't. Why or okay, so here's also the thing, the nature of this podcast. What are we at? Like a 3-ish week lead time with this? I'm like genuinely, like, I mean, like many other people, terrified for this woman's life.
Yes.
What I say today, will it be relevant in a couple of weeks?
This is what I wanted to talk about. This idea. Because it's very funny it's not funny. It's interesting to me, like, who knows what about this, and who knows like the up to date.
That is one of those scenarios. It is one of those things. People have opinions about women, and I am again wigged out by the conversation around this woman who's like just horrifying pawn in geopolitical, like we can call that what it is, and people are like, well, do we care about me? I'm like, all things can be true. All things can be true. And like
true.
Many people, yes, experience horrible crimes against them. Like but does it mean that we don't take care of this woman who's like, I can't fucking imagine. I was reading something the other day that her lawyers offered to get her a basketball because the prison has a net or a hoop, whatever, and she said, no, it's too depressing to think about.
Yeah.
That's fucking ugh.
It's awful.
Ugh.
It's awful. Yeah. It's funny that you were like, I don't want to talk about this, but you clearly
I know. Well, it's like it's constantly on my I don't read a lot of news apps anymore, but it's like the one that I look at, that's always like, she's always there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it's not surprising. So like the most like updated thing as of I think like 2 days ago was that the Moscow court rejected her appeal, and they said that they're like not even going to even think about any kind of negotiation or anything until after the election. And now we're saying that they won't even be open to negotiations of a prisoner exchange or looking at any more appeals or anything like that till after the November 8th election, because they don't want to like they don't want to give Biden the win, essentially.
Fucking God.
It's like
So that's your midterms down there, right?
Mhm.
That's your midterms, yeah. It's
Um,
fucked.
like the thing that I find really scary about this is that like no, like people care, but like no one cares.
I think that's maybe like
Yeah.
when I'm talking about people have like weird ass opinions about this or like the
Yes.
conversation around it, I'm like, this is really fucking squicked out. And maybe, I mean, I think I've mentioned this too. I have been feeling like I'll be very honest, I do not have a good sense of what's going on in Iran right now.
Mhm.
Like, just because I have had a very like many other things in the world. Like, I have a hard
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
There's so like every day there is
There's
the
something.
worst news you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like this balance of I'm a big Philip, if I am gonna like watch the news, I'm a Philip DeFranco watcher. I've been for a very long time. And like that's maybe the only maybe the only news I consume, like actual news, not just like
Yeah.
Instagram or TikTok carousels.
Yeah.
I consume at the moment just because I've had like I used to be, oh man, like I was fully addicted to the news, like I think so many people were, and I've just had to be like,
Mhm.
I need to not right now. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I feel like I should feel guilty for saying that, and I don't.
Mm. See, this is the thing. And like, I think that this is like, I think what our investment now of caring looks like putting it on Instagram, right? Or
Mm.
looks like being like,
Ugh. Yes.
post this thing, or hey,
Yes.
here's this, uh, whatever
Mm-hmm.
petition, or here's a way to donate. And like, I don't know, there's a part of me that finds it scary that someone is just like sitting somewhere rotting away,
Mm-hmm.
and we all are just like sharing a picture.
Uh-huh.
Like
I know.
I just like,
Or people being killed and we're like, we need action now. And it's like
it's like
it
that.
is it's so
Yeah.
much more complicated, and like but at the same time I don't blame anybody. Like I
No, I
I
don't.
don't blame anybody, and that's what I don't know.
But I
I
think
think it's one of those things, it's just so much more complicated than anyone's actually ever willing to
mhm.
admit
Mhm.
that it
It's so much
is.
more complicated, but I think it's like I I think it's interesting when people start to become like the symbolism of our own like goodness,
Mhm.
of like, or like, you know what I mean? And I feel
Mhm.
like that's kind of what's happening
Mhm.
with Brittany.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
becoming like I care about the world because I care about this person, you
Mhm.
know? Um Liberalized blah blah
Yeah.
blah thing.
Yeah.
Um but I think very good examples, obviously, of like, yeah, like what we think is good enough, what is good enough, like how much we think we can help, can we help at all? Like
Yeah.
getting stuck in this whole thing, you know?
Mm. Mm.
I don't know how much of that is warranted to be on the podcast, but I've been thinking about it lately.
No, I love it. I see this a lot, and I think this is what we're talking about today. But I see this a lot with like women
Yeah.
in heterosexual relationships.
Mm.
Um that the kind of like what's the word, activism.
Mm.
I think people are calling it like slacktivism, like this like passive
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
slacktivism.
like situation.
Mhm.
Um kind of it kind of is like a responsibility that rests on like women's shoulders.
Yeah.
And then I see these women, and this is a completely different conversation. This is why I think it's kind of related today. Like this like slacktivism Instagram posting of like a topic
Yeah.
lies with the women, and then men just kind of have this back seat of like Well, I don't really necessarily believe in that, but I'll just let her do whatever she needs to do to like feel okay kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, this is like, we can tease this out more, maybe not, but I don't know. There's something in that where it's like certain people feel certain responsibilities and certain people feel like it's not.
Yeah.
Certain people. Cis
Yeah.
men.
Yeah, for sure.
My forever target.
Forever and ever and ever. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, yes, exactly.
What a fun pop culture roundup. Wow.
Leslie Jordan died. Adele. It's terrible.
Adele's
it's terrible.
too much. Too much for us all. Well, and like, but like we have Adele, you know? I think that's always kind of my takeaway from like this thinking. I'm like, oh, everything's so bad about it. I'm like, but Adele's sitting in an inner tube. And like, that's quite amazing. So, oh, I guess we have that.
Yes.
And wine. So,
ugh.
Yeah.
Best shot of the whole thing was when like she drinks the wine and then throws
tosses it in the water. I know. So good.
So good.
It's actually funny. I totally forgot. I had a dream that I was in an inner tube last night. That's very weird. That's very weird.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Adele.
Just an experiment. Talking about things in the world. Who knows? Okay. So today, my question today is, do you ever feel like everyone is having more sex than you?
I think people are liars. Shocking.
Ooh,
Phoebe thinks someone's lying.
You think people are lying about how much sex they have?
Yes. Yeah, I think people are lying about how much sex they have. I mean, somebody's lying, right? Because like and I don't have these numbers in front of me, but like I think statistically people report having more sex than they actually do. And so it's like one of these things, like, and then like people report having so much, a certain amount of sex, but then like anecdotally, that's not what I'm hearing. Like, and when I'm out to brunch, you know, when I'm driving around, when I'm going on a hike with the girls. So I'm like, who's lying here?
Oh yeah, this is fascinating.
Lying here?
Yes, for sure. Lies all around, but also some very interesting things that I have brought to this topic today. So I think here's the reason why I'm very fascinated by this question. This question that we have literally been asking apparently for quite a long time. There's a thing called the General Social Survey that's conducted at the University of Chicago. The one that came out in 2016 was controversial about what it said about millennials specifically having sex. But that study has been happening forever. And in it are questions that are asked of the people that participate about their sex lives. Things like, how many sex partners have you had in the last 12 months? Or how often do you have sex in the last 12 months? Things like that. Obviously, we can get into like everything I'm not going to get into about like surveying and who are these questions going to and blah, 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 blah. Yes. Right. Like, But
well, and I think that's kind of my general question is like, what are we calling sex?
Yes. So this comes out in 2016, right?
Yeah.
This like finding that basically says that millennials are having less sex than every other generation before us.
Yeah.
And our generation, as we do, we're like, what is this shit? Right.
Yeah.
And everyone from GQ to Vogue to like was writing about how this is not true. To Cosmopolitan was writing about how this is not true.
Well, and exactly like, you know, I think my mom's generation, like, you know, listen, you know, my mom's book club would maybe talk about sex in their 20s as why don't we call that date rape instead? You know, like that's always the thing that comes to mind when we're like talking about sex intergenerationally. I'm like, forget about, you know, the layers of you know, is sex PIV? Is sex penetration at all? Is sex like all of these things that get wrapped up in like these narrow definitions, and then again like generationally, like there's so many. I just think it's so Like how could I just it's one of those things where I love like we like to act like it's black and white. Like, oh, I had sex last night. Like what somebody pictures is so person to person is so different.
So I have like a bunch
I'm interrupting
of like,
you. I'm interrupting
no, it's
you
okay.
so much.
No, I love this. I love this. This is supporting my thing. I have a lot of like what the world is saying about this. And then I have a lot of questions that I think we can take this into like our personal experience with this question, right? So what the world is saying about this is that, well, first of all, I think we can say like this question feels very like the first thing that feels obvious to me is to be like, who the fuck cares, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels very kind of I don't know, like simplistic, right? And it feels very like okay, like obvious to just say like, well, don't compare yourself to other people. Who cares? Are you happy with how much sex you're having? That's all that matters, right? Like, which is what everyone says, right?
Yeah.
From Dan Savage to Esther Perel to Cosmo, like everyone says like all that matters is that you're happy with it.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating is that if that is the conclusion of all of the Google searches of every thing of every like way that you can ask this question, then why the hell when I put this question in the internet is there so much to be found there? When the constant conclusion is who the fuck cares as long as you're happy with it. Please go ahead.
Well, it's like it's one of okay, if we're gonna like tease it out, you know, so often these questions are morality based, right?
Right.
So and it's twofold, right? Because if you have a lot of sex, maybe you're valuable, but you have to be a very specific type of person in a very narrow situation and have very specific kind of sex for that to be a good thing, right? And then all other times it's bad.
Yes.
All other times it's bad. And what I think is so funny, and I think about this a lot, is like, you know, I've been having sex with the same person for a long time. And I think because of that, like I was saying this to a friend who's like also in another like long-term relationship. I don't have bad sex anymore because I have the communication skills with like one person for like that just to simply not happen. And so we were just talking about like having good sex versus bad sex and like what am I interested in, like what is I guess just like the word interesting just stands out in my head because boring sex sounds ass awful, like let alone
horrible.
like pain, all the other things that get wrapped up in quote unquote bad sex. And so I was saying to her, I was like, I actually don't know if I were to go out and date somebody if I could have bad sex, because I think I would just be like, stop. No, I'm just simply not doing this.
Something that I have learned is that millennials, more so than any other generation, are more willing and wanting to stop and turn down bad sex as it's happening.
Yeah, like I have really no problem with that. I have no moral, not even moral, just like anything. I'm in anything of my life.
Well, that's the thing is like we're taking away we are actually taking away the moralization. We and Gen Zers, who are really just better at everything than we are taking the moralization out of it, which I think is so interesting. When I was thinking about this subject, of course, obviously, like I have my own thoughts about this, and I remember being in a long-term relationship in your 20s, in college, is a particular kind of hell.
It's insane person behavior is what it is.
It's insane person behavior. And I remember feeling incredibly isolated and incredibly lonely in these conversations because I was having them with a specific type with a group that all look the same and all is having the same kind of sex, A, and B, everyone had a lot of opinions about how I should be having sex in a long-term relationship.
Oh, well, and then
but
should you even be? are you really sure that that is the person you want to be having sex with
Yes,
forever?
forever?
I'm like, I don't know if that's forever. I just know what happened last night.
Exactly.
Like,
yes, that question is so annoying. Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. Yes. But
So black and white.
It's so ridiculous. But everyone seemed to have a lot of opinions about what was healthy in my long-term relationship around my sex life.
Oh,
but I didn't really have any opinions.
Quantity? Or
Yes.
yeah.
But I didn't really have any opinions about how often they were having sex. It's like this extreme, it's like there's this thing that happens in like the long-term relationship partnership around this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's been studied, it's been analyzed that, first of all, there's obviously certain groups of our culture that worry about how much sex they're having more than others, clearly. I mean, we could be obvious about that, but I think that like this question is usually linked to people who are partnered for long time, right?
Yes.
Like this idea of worrying or even asking the question, it's usually something that is investigated in long-term partnership or relationship.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until very recently that I have discovered that that is changing. That's actually not true. That people, single, partnered with multiple people, like whatever the hell it is, right? Like are actually more concerned for the first time ever with not
frequency.
not necessarily with just the health of their sex life, period. Whether they are, you know what I'm saying? Like we're analyzing this as a culture and we're looking at it and we're asking the question of, am I having sex enough, or am I having quality sex, or am I having like any of these conversations?
Yeah.
It's like not just about marriage now or about partnership. It's also single women, right? It's also like it's you know, the gay community. It's literally everyone was going around going like, let's ask these questions. Let's analyze this, you know?
Yeah. Interesting.
And also in a different way, like I was saying, like before it was all about enoughness, right? Quantity versus quality. And now we're having way more conversations about quality, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like what was interesting about this, that this reaction to this 2016 survey was that everybody just went off and did their own like investigation, because millennials didn't want to believe that this was true and knew in their hearts that it wasn't true. So everybody went off and did their own things, and what people found was that the quantity is going down. People are having less sex, but quality is more consistent than ever. People are having consistently, you know, good sex, which seems to matter more than the quantity.
I don't know if you have this number in front of you, but I'm so curious as to what they're comparing, the like what in this set of numbers was more sex.
Oh, yeah. Like what was considered sex?
Or not sex, but like what was considered maybe like average. Like if Gen Z is, or if millennials and Gen Z are less, like what is the larger number that quote unquote people like
we're comparing it to previously? Yeah, I don't have that number.
Like I'm so curious. Yeah, I'm so curious to what that is, because again, it's like, I mean, I'm always so shocked when I hear anywhere, just like anecdotally in a cavalier way, like I'm having brunch with somebody or listening to a podcast or something like that, and someone's like, oh yeah, when I have sex every single day, I'm like, oh my God, how do your dishes get done? Like, who has the time?
So one of the most, like, I think,
so that's the thing I'm curious about, is like, what is this, like, where's this time that we're supposed to be filling with sex? And then let alone, because like good sex is not a 20-minute operate. Well, I don't know. For me, it's not.
It might not be a 20-minute operation. Exactly. So what I find fascinating about that is there's this like, nobody knows where it came from, as far as I can tell. Nobody knows what it's really substantiated by, but there's this like thing that everyone judges. There's a number that everyone judges their long-term relationship sexual habits around,
Yes.
which is 2 to 3 times a week.
And I have
insanity.
I
have heard this.
Pure insanity.
Yeah.
No, that's all I have to say. That is insanity.
I have heard this number.
Yeah.
My other people that I've been in partnership has heard this number. Like, and it's like made up, right? Like it's
like
literally
marketing.
marketing. It's literally marketing. And it's literally
like
marketing.
Who benefits from this?
Men, but whatever. It's
no, but I want like who's at the top? Like who's like what?
I
see. You know how like
10,000
steps a day is marketing?
Yes.
Like it's like the walk. What is it?
Yes.
Pedometer, is that what a step counter is? Like that's marketing. I'm like,
yes.
Who 2 to 3? Like who fiscally is benefiting?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think we could really go. I think there's actually probably people. There are definitely systems and that are benefiting from that. But okay, so basically everything that tells women that they hate them should hate themselves, right? It's another thing, right?
Yeah.
To contribute to that, and then it has us buying more shit to fix our problem. But anyways, so then what I find fascinating about that number is, or what I found interesting was like in the Sex and the City movie when they're all sitting around. And Charlotte answers this question. She says, Harry and I have sex 2 to 3 times a week. And Miranda is seen as someone who is in a dire situation in her marriage because she hasn't had sex with Steve in 6 months. And we can look at sex and like this is a cultural show. This is a show people are like, right? This is like a single woman show.
Well, it's supposed to be boiled down average experience, right?
Right.
Like for the majority of like middle-aged, but women watching this. Right? It's supposed to be like the general experience of what this is.
Exactly. And I have been in conversation and I have had many a chat with women who hear what my truth is in my relationship and are shocked by it and are like have their, not even women, I should erase people, quite like people that I've had conversation with about this that are like very clearly have an idea of how much sex partnered people should be having. You know what I mean? Or like what is right, you know, like, and that in itself is an interesting thing, I think, like into this conversation of like, why are we so obsessed with partnered people's sex lives and versus like the single woman on Tinder, you know what I mean? Like, that's interesting. What I think is really hopeful, right? Like what is really great about these conversations that we're having now is most millennials, 92%, based on one of the studies I found, think that quality is far more important than quantity.
Go
ahead.
Well, it's making me think of this study that I know people reference a lot. I'm just pulling it up here. Orgasm frequency. Straight heterosexual women have the lowest, report the lowest, what's the word that, like, you know, gratification. Let me pull it. Heterosexual men are most, and this is from, we'll put it in the show notes. It's from some publication. Heterosexual men are most likely to say they usually always orgasm when sexually intimate 95% of the time, followed by gay men 89% of the time, bisexual men 88%, lesbian women 86%, bisexual women 66%, and heterosexual women 65%. That to me, orgasm divide, that's what people talk about. That to me is a very interesting, like that is the more interesting, you know, if we're going to like look at a set of numbers or something like that. Is the more interesting. That's what
we should be giving a shit about. Exactly.
Conversation and divide. And like, and that's like kind of what I was saying to, like, you know, talking with my friend, like, I don't think I could have bad sex with as a partnered person in like, you know, in a consensual way. Because I because of being, I mean, not just being partnered for so long, being with somebody who's like willing to have a conversation about things, or like, you know, feeling safe, all the things that actually go in to being in partnership with somebody of any kind, even if it's for 45 minutes. Like that is I don't know, like that divide is so much more interesting to me, and I'm so much more curious about, because it's so that is a marker of where we are socially and not frequency. I was listening to Ashley Gavin's We're Having Gay Sex the other day, and she had this really amazing guest on, Sebene Selesi. And she was talking about, Sebene is this meditation teacher, and was talking about how she is, you know, getting a divorce and was in a sexless marriage for like, you know, she was married for 14 years and a sexless marriage for like around 7 years or something like that. And she's just, you know, talking about what that was like. And she was saying like, you know, I don't think it's the energy. She was saying like, I think that's like what a lot of long-term partnered people eventually experience of some kind, or not eventually, statistically likely to experience of some kind. And I don't think, she was saying like, just because that energy is quote unquote common, I don't feel like is maybe like good for the world. Like passion, feeling good, like having a blissful moment are available to us. I mean, I had this thought the other day in yoga. I was like laying down at the end to like have my little yoga nap, and this was like an actual thought I had. And I was like, isn't it so nice that orgasms are free?
Oh.
And I don't know, like that's like something. Yeah, that was just like the thought I had. And then I was like, well, are they, you know, my brain.
Yeah.
But
are they free? Yes.
Are they free? Horrible. That's a horror show thought. But this idea of like the energy that we put out into the world based on like the frequency of our sex, or not, and I don't even think it's just sex, it's like pleasure that we receive with ourselves, with another human being, like all this stuff, like again, like this is the number. If like, you know, heterosexual women are reporting 65% like sexual fulfillment. Yeah. That is grim.
Yeah.
That is grim to me.
I in my research into this, it's interesting that you're talking about this, because there's like a direct correlation between like our generation's obsession with self and the sex that we're having. Obsession is not the right word, but like this idea of like self like taking care, being right, like have like examining your relationships, going to therapy, like doing your yoga, like having health and an identity, like also the identity thing, being true to who you are, speaking your truth, using whatever friggin' pronouns you want, like all of these things contribute to good sex. And
of course,
we are of a place and time, or we are of generation that like is putting so much energy and thought into those things, and then that is contributing to the quality of the sex that we have. We are 40 times. Also, what I thought was interesting was I found that we're 40 times more likely than these other generations that were tested in this really fucked up way, or questioned in this really fucked up way, but 40 times more likely than those other generations to believe that emotional connection makes better sex. Which I find
we are, or
yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's
millennials.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Which I find
interesting.
Which I find is interesting because of science and all these developments around that, obviously. But we like hookup culture.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Like I feel like we are so much more open to the having stranger sex. You know what I mean? And that's something that I've always, as a partnered person for mostly all of my life, personally cannot understand. You know what I mean? Because I I don't know. I've never experimented with it. But like, I find that interesting, right? Like, can emotional connection come that quickly? Like, I don't know. Like that's another.
Yeah, I
thing
think
that
that's like a
interesting.
completely different thing.
Yeah. But I just thought that was like, I was like, when we're probably having more hookups with people we don't know.
Well,
you know what
and
I
that's
mean? Like
my question there is
interesting.
like, is that emotional connection being established more, or is it like not necessarily important for it to also like, yes, it can contribute to it's, I don't know.
Yes.
I have, again, when I look at numbers, and I think this is like what makes for a good, not like I'm a scientist, but what makes for a good scientist, and what I think is like missing. And when because studies are available to whoever, my critical thinking brain is just like, I have so many follow-up questions to that.
No, for sure. What I think is interesting is that, like, what I thought about was, I think it's not about emotional connection to each other. I think it's emotional connection to ourselves. I think it's even knowing what emotional connection is. I think it's like knowing, like I think we live in a world now where that's being examined all the time, of like quality of relationship, how to be a better human and communicate, how to like, so like maybe that emotional connection is happening in that 20-minute hookup in the bathroom of the bar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we are more in tuned to that as people.
I love you. That is brilliant genius behavior. I love that. Okay. Well, it's funny. It's funny that you said it, because I love that. I think that's so smart. I really love, I think I, again, reference it a lot, Ashley Gavin's We're Having Gay Sex podcast. And it's kind of this joke. It's kind of this joke in, queer culture. Is culture the right word? I don't know. When I'm sitting at the bar with my friends, we can call that culture. Oh, ha ha ha, like that's lesbian sex, or ha ha ha, like like holding hands and like talking about our feelings for like 6 hours is lesbian sex or whatever. And that's kind of my, my asterisk when we talk about like how much sex are people having. It's like, okay, well, what are we calling sex?
What are we calling sex? Who's answering these questions? Yes.
All these things. Course. And so what I think is very funny, listening to this podcast is just like, in my mind, what I think of as like fulfilling sexual experiences have not necessarily been I guess it's like sex with it's not about the other person. It is about like the relationship that I have with myself, that I'm like, I was just talking the other day about, we can maybe edit this out. This is like such a ridiculous story. But I was talking, a friend and I were talking about like the kind of like queer awakenings adjacent kind of thing. And I was saying like, the first time I realized I was like, I love women, I went to an all girls camp. I'll try and like shorten this story because it's, maybe I won't. Okay. I went to an all girls camp, which is like both hell and heaven when you are a middle school girl. And we had this thing, I can't remember what it was. I think it was called like Vagabond Day or something like that, where we got to like be released from our normal activities. I went to this all-girl camp that had like we had to wear uniforms. We said the Lord's Prayer every morning. And I don't think my parents realized they were sending me to like this religious
this doesn't sound like something your parents would support.
I did not grow up saying that. Like I did not go to church as a kid.
Yeah.
Like the raising the flag in the morning, everyone saying the Lord's Prayer, and I was like, like zero idea what was going on. So I felt very, very out of place at this camp in many ways, and that has, I'm sure, many a young woman does in any kind of situation. But I felt very out of place. Anyway, I was out paddling on my kayak one day, and it was Vagabond Day, and so everyone was like running around doing activities that they wouldn't do necessarily. And usually this would happen like at the end of like your 2 weeks or a month, however long you were staying there.
So fucked up.
Oh, don't even get me started on like how fucked, like the names, our camp names, like you were separated into quote unquote tribes named after, just like, named after like Canadian, like Indigenous Canadian group. Yeah, it's like
no.
this place
This
had
also sounds
zero
like something your
chill.
parents would not support.
This house, zero chill. I really don't understand how I was sent there. Like, I think a friend of a friend told them it was like a good idea, and they're like, "Sure, send her up there." Anyway,
great. We don't have to deal with Phoebe for a few weeks.
Yeah. Shock horror. I wrote home every single day being like, "Dear Mom and Dad, can you please come and get me? I am not happy."
I'm not happy. I don't understand.
I don't really understand portaging, and why am I doing it? So this camp also had very fancy people that went to it. And when I remember arriving at camp one day and like being asked what school I went to. And I was like, Dundas Central Public School? Like, what are you talking about? So it was just like, I'm just saying all this stuff. And they're like, oh, you don't go to Branksome Hall or like all of these like private schools.
That
anyway.
Tell you about,
I'm saying this to illustrate, you paint a picture here.
Right.
Anyway, there was a model that went to our camp and who was flown in and out a couple of times over the summer to go and I tried looking her up recently. I tried to find her. I couldn't remember her name or clues or anything. Yeah. But there's this model that went to our camp and she was just like this kind of bizarre looking person up close. And because she was so shiny and beautiful and tall and whatever. And she was like a couple years older than me. And I was kind of like, I was fascinated with her, what I thought was fascination. I just had a crush on her. And so we're out, it's Vagabond Day. I'm paddling around and I see the like older kids get up on the dock and they're running from their cabin naked along the dock. And they run up to the 6-meter board and are jumping naked off of the dock and then swimming out and running back into their cabin. It was like the funny, hilarious activity they're doing for the day. I'm out on my little kayak paddling around and I see Miss Model naked run from her cabin along the dock, climb up the steps, and like it was like time froze. It was like time froze as I looked up and I saw a woman, girl. I was a child. Yeah. Naked on the dock and was like
very Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah, very extremely that vibes. And I like, time froze, time stood still. And I was like, she is for me. I am for her. We are one. And like watched her jump. And like everyone was like, oh, gross. Ha, 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 ha. Like as I was paddling along and I was like, yeah, so weird. Anyway. The longest story. Exactly. The longest story to kind of like to me, that is like an important like sexual like childhood moment for me. And like I don't know if we kind of, and I feel, you know, like my queerness gets kind of wrapped up and I feel lucky to a certain degree that like part of that script is unwritten for me. And also I have like this other part of my script that's very written for me. And like, yeah, like, I don't know. All that to say, it's like, that is an important like sexual experience for me. And I just don't know if like, that's the thing that we're thinking about when we're talking about
what is sex,
dicks and vaginas.
Yes.
Anyway, that was a long, long, long tangent.
I'm all for it. Because what I wanted to kind of like segue this into is like, well, I think an important thing to note to bring it around is this obsession with this question has so much to do about like goodness, or if we're doing the human experience right. Yeah. Like I think that's where it comes from. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing that when I was going down this tunnel, I was like, I don't understand. Like all of these fucking articles say the same fucking thing. So why are people continuing to Google this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we're so hung up. They're like, somebody please reassure me, make me feel okay.
Yes, make me feel okay.
I haven't gotten railed, or I haven't felt like getting railed in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so That is huge. Yes. Again, we got to get some smarter people on this podcast.
I know.
But
I know.
like, yeah. So that is the thing, right? Which we established from the very beginning. This is just a question of comparison, and it's just a question that makes you feel a little bit better about your experience in the world.
Yeah.
It's another way for you to say like, oh, I might be doing life better than the person next to me. But what I was interested to hear from you specifically is like a little bit of what you've already talked on, which is being in a long-term relationship with this stuff. But also like something starts to happen when other people get in long-term relationships, because you and I have been partnered to the same person and have been monogamous, or maybe, I don't know. Actually, we've never talked about this. I have been monogamous in my partnership. I don't know what you guys got going on. I don't know what you have going on.
We'll just leave it there.
We'll just leave it there. But my point is that like people make certain assumptions and then start like when they start being in a long-term relationship, right? Like they start to come to you, and then all of a sudden you're the like whisperer because you've been in this position for a long time of what is good, what is right, what is blah, 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 in all the facets of the relationship market, right? Not just like sex. But I've had so many conversations with people where they want me to be like, yes, you are doing sex right in your relationship.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm just curious if that has been your experience.
I don't know if that, I mean, I think people do a lot of assuming in straight, white, and I will say heterosexual presenting relationships.
Right, exactly.
And I have like 40 essays and a soliloquy inside of me on like the conversation that, okay, this is like, okay, wait. I'm going to back up. Yes, straight presenting relationships have. And I think there's so much assumption because, like I said, the script is there. And so everyone thinks that the script is the same for you know, the friend who's been in long-term relationship and friend A and friend B and now myself. And so now I shall follow the script with it. And I think I don't care how the fuck you're partnered or who the fuck you're partnered with or what gender is happening inside of your relationship.
Yeah.
0% of the people are following the script. Like nobody is having as much or as little or the kind of sex that you could ever possibly imagine. And I think it's so funny to me, and I was going to say this earlier when we were talking about, you know, what's good or what's bad or whatever, is like just
Quality.
like, or like the, you know, deeming how much, like having opinions on other people's sex life. We frequently say, don't have, you know, you can't have opinions on people's relationships in so many other areas of their life. That's their business. Leave them alone. Okay. But like now their sex life is like a free for all. Like you're just like explicitly not like invited into that conversation and dance. And then, but you get to have an opinion on it. Bizarre to me. So I don't know if it's so much like, I don't know. I don't know if I've had people necessarily come to me to be like, am I doing this okay? And I think that's mostly because a lot of my like close friend relationships aren't heterosexual. But no, I don't know.
But I think it's like there's something I think that, and maybe this is my thesis that I need to go and like make an art piece about, but I think there is something like linked to time. Like I think there's something that people believe you have, like you've been doing it for a long time with this, like, so you must have with anything, right? Like, so you must have some kind of magical answer inside of you, whether it's from like, you've been playing the piano longer than I have, or you've been in a committed relationship for longer than I have, having sex with having sex for a long time
But
over and
again,
over
you
again.
just have like
But,
zero
like,
qualitative data about
you
like
have
what the fuck
nothing.
that person's sex life is like. And like you don't, and until, I mean, I think it's so funny. Like in having conversations about sex with my friends, and I always find it very interesting too. It's like, you know, there's some friendships where like sex is part of the conversation, and then there's other relationships where it's like they are. I mean, I'll talk about anything to anybody. That's my personal problem.
Yes.
But like that's not what they are interested in sharing with me or the world or any kind of way. And I think, like there was no doing it right or
right. There isn't, but there is. But I feel like this is very much evident of like there is no doing it right, and yet there's this thing of like, oh, because you've been doing something for a long time, you know what right is. And I'm over here like, I have no idea what right is. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
who is to say just because I've been waking up next to the same person every single fucking day for 12 years that I have any kind of authority on this?
Yeah.
I don't. And also like, why do you like what comfort does that bring you if I did have it? Is it like to serve partnership?
But
is it
but
like, then I
it's-
can go and get married and I can have comfort about this too? Because then it like makes me feel good about like my patriarchal duty to like go and like whatever the hell, you know what I mean? Like, yes, that's what I'm fucking saying. Like, anyways, it's like,
it is so funny.
Yeah.
There was a call on like the Lovecast like a while ago that I was listening to about this woman who was having a very hard time. She loved giving men blowjobs, but had a really hard time not feeling like she was like like being fucked by the patriarchy. Like blowjobs are like a symbol of like submission, that like she's not interested in like participating. And she's like, how can I get the patriarchy out of my bedroom? And I think it's like,
what a question.
And I think it's like, well, I mean, the answer is agency and like, you know, decision making and consent. For your like in every kind of way. But I think it's so like when we're asking this question of like how much sex are you having, it's the exact same thing. Feeling like somebody can't give a blowjob because it's patriarchy and how much sex are you having are the exact same question.
Yes.
Of like, am I good? Am I wielding feminism? Am I wielding patriarchy? Am I okay? Like, you know, what is the morals, moral good that I am? Please, somebody validate me.
And somebody validate me. Horrifying. But somebody validate me that's also suffering from the same shit. And also like someone we're like we're looking to the systems that are oppressing us to give us the answers about this thing. And that does not
same.
That's like, what? Like, because the only validity that how much has ever had has been capitalism and white supremacy. The only validity that how much like quantity has ever carried has been in the violence to other human beings. So I don't, or to ourselves and others. So I don't understand why that question is the question.
Yeah.
Like still, like, like how much or quantity?
I mean, especially
mean anything.
Especially in this era of like trying to close the orgasm gap and like the conversations. I mean, I even think it's like kind of crazy the conversations I'm having with my mom, like about sex. And I mean, I'm saying it's kind of crazy, and also like I want to. My aunt taught me how to find dick pics on like early days of Instagram.
Ooh, love it.
So like that's the relationship
Great.
my family has with talking about sex at the dinner table. Like I find, because it's not like the how to of these things. It's like this more nuanced conversation of like, or like, you know, like look at this device that you can buy, or like look at this subscription that you can have, like
Mhm.
all these things that
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
have entered the chat now that I
Mhm.
I think are great.
Mhm.
I think are great. I
But
keep
this is what
losing
I'm
my
fucking
threads. I keep
No, but
losing
this
my
is what I'm
thread.
saying. When you were like, this is what I'm saying. Like, who is benefiting from the 2 to 3 times a week? Who is benefiting from the
Oh, for
question of,
certain.
is it enough? Like everything that you just said, all of the industries that support what you just said. Fucking Viagra companies are contributing to are being
Mhm.
are getting something from the 2 to 3 times a week thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like yeah, like I don't know. It's a mess.
It is a mess. It is a mess. Well, I think your centralized question, we were talking about this before we started too. It's like, or no, we were talking about this is like, I think to me, kind of like the topic of sex is kind of like bread in that
Mhm.
there are many different kinds of bread. There are hot dogs.
Yes.
There is sourdough. There are buns. Is it
Yes.
sweet or savory? Like,
There are
what are
all
we doing with the
kinds.
bread?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
to kind of talk about, sex and act like it's this narrow target is just simply
Mhm.
not true. But to kind of bring it back to like what is our initial question? Do you ever feel like everyone's
You're
having more sex?
than you are.
No, I don't, because I think
Mm.
I think people are lying, and I think we're all lying to ourselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
don't
know.
worry
I
about it.
feel
Like
I feel
I don't worry about it.
very fine about. I was
I feel-
literally just having this conversation
Yeah.
laying in bed the other night. Simon had asked me. He was like, what is your like sexual gratification in our relationship? And I was like, 10 out of 10. I don't think it's not always been that. It won't
Yeah.
always be that. I'm fine with that. But like I simply don't worry about these things. And when I've been listening to Dan Savage since I was like an actual kid.
Dan Savage is amazing.
I really love Dan Savage. But Dan Savage,
which
come on the
which
pod.
is a controversial statement.
I know. And you know what? I am like super okay with like Dan Savage grew up in a time and a place. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I very much respect a gay man living through the AIDS epidemic. Like, fuck off. Like, yes, people
I
can
very much respect
be
a
problematic.
Gay man, a gay man writing about heterosexual sex
Like-
for most of their career.
Uh-huh.
Because, sorry, keep going. We can
Anyway, no, I
Yeah.
love Dan Savage, and I can appreciate people also being not
People are
great at
three-dimensional.
the same time. And
Yes.
I don't know.
Whatever. Who cares?
Whatever.
You were saying.
I was saying about Dan Savage. I was listening to Dan Savage for a long time. When people call into the Lovecast and they're like, am I having like this again?
That's
this
the
moral
question.
panic of like, am I
Yes.
having enough sex, or like, should I feel okay, but like, what if when it changes? And I think it's so funny, and I even get caught up in that. I'm like, well, like, should I be fucking somebody else? Should I like be slinging myself from the ceiling? Like, should I like when Simon gets home? Like, should I be covering myself in butter or something like that? Like all these questions of like, am I a good person? And the sex that I have, and then I go like, oh wait, no, actually, like I feel great.
No, I don't care.
I feel great about a lot of my life, and my like sex that I'm having is a part of that. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay with it. And it's so funny when like this like confronted with this anxiety, or I'm like, whoa, are you okay? Like that's the question.
Yeah,
That's the question.
For sure.
Anyway, wow.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Do You Ever Feel Like My Dog?
Ooh,
it's the dog alarm.
Yes, thanks for listening. Be sure to follow and subscribe to all the various things.
Subscribe. Do you have anything going on? Sign up for Jacque's newsletter. You can find
thanks, baby.
find our more Jacque, our more Phoebe in the show notes. Sign up for my newsletter. Sign up for Jacque's newsletter. You can find us. Well, you can find me on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at Do You Ever Pod. I don't know. I'm just trying to like do all the things that people do at the end of podcast episodes. What even happens? Go get railed or don't get railed. The choice is yours.
Who cares?
Go railing. You know.
Yes. Yes.
Gosh, have some. Oh, here, you know what? I will leave you with the best sex tip I've ever received in my entire life.
Go.
It's from my friend Katrina Marie. Once again, I think she goes by My Orgasmic Life still on Instagram. She's a body sex educator, and she had said, and this is like for anybody, any kind of sex you're having, and it was actually explicitly about masturbation. Move your hips. I sound like a drill sergeant. Move your hips. Respond to the pleasure being presented to you. People with penises move their hips. Get the blood flowing in your organs. It's like the best, and it's like changed my life. Changed my life. Go forth. Enjoy
Move
that, or don't, or just like lay there. Like don't get fucked,
or don't get fucked, or like
eat a bag of chips.
Yes. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Like live your best life. You are the one who knows what your best life is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
We
bye.
did it. Okay. Bye. Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Feel Like?
Follow this chaos wherever you get your podcasts.
Our artwork is by Simon Peng. Do You Ever Feel Like is produced by Jacqueline Wills
and Phoebe Taylor. You can follow us on Instagram at DoYouEverPod.
You can write to us at doyoueverpod@gmail.com. Okay, bye.
Bye.